There will come a time when you're walking alone, no applause, no audience, no one to ask what you think or what you feel. It's during that time you find out who you really are, not when the world is cheering, but when it goes quiet. And in that quiet, you have a choice. You can let the silence crush you, or you can shape it. Because silence is not just the absence of noise, it's the space where all your power waits to be awakened. Most people run from solitude. They panic when the noise fades. They look for distractions, voices, validation. But the wise, they lean into it. They don't run from silence. They use it. Silence isn't a retreat. It's a tool. It's not the enemy. It's a weapon. It's how you observe, recalibrate, plan. If you're alone, don't see it as punishment. See it as preparation. The strongest roots grow underground, hidden from the world. So must you talk less, think sharper, move slower, but with more intent. Silence gives you the room to think deeply and to act precisely. Don't escape into silence to hide. Command from silence to lead. This is where self-respect is built. This is where discipline sharpens. This is where the world begins to feel your presence, not because you're loud, but because you've become undeniable. So if you're walking alone, good. Let it teach you, let it harden you, let it cleanse you. And when you're done, you won't just survive in silence. You'll command from it. Solitude reveals your true character. It strips away the noise, the expectations, and the opinions of others. It removes the mirrors that constantly reflect how others see you. And in that stillness, you're left with one thing: yourself. No filters, no performance. Just the raw truth of who you are when no one is watching. Solitude doesn't lie to you. It doesn't flatter or distract. It demands that you sit with your own thoughts, your own doubts, your own beliefs. And that's where transformation begins. When you're surrounded by people, it's easy to wear a mask. Easy to pretend, to please, to adjust. But when you're alone, there's no one to impress. There's no script to follow. Just the unfiltered version of you. This is the space where honesty is unavoidable. You start to see your habits, good or bad. You feel your patterns, constructive or destructive. You learn what you run from and what you fight for. Solitude doesn't make you weak. It reveals what's already weak inside you. And that is a gift, because what's revealed can be repaired. What's exposed can be evolved. Most people avoid being alone not because it's painful, but because it's honest. It shows them the gap between who they are and who they pretend to be. But if you lean into that silence, you can close the gap. You can meet the real you and begin the work that actually matters. Growth doesn't start when people cheer you on. It starts when no one's there to watch you fail or succeed. It starts in the quiet hours, the long nights, the early mornings, where it's just you and your choices. Solitude forces clarity. It helps you remember what matters. It helps you feel what you've been avoiding. And it helps you hear what the noise has been drowning out. You start asking yourself deeper questions. Am I proud of how I live? Am I running from something or building something? Do my actions reflect my values or someone else's? These answers won't come from a crowd. They come from solitude, from silence, from truth. And the more time you spend in that space, the more resilient you become. Not bitter, not distant, but clear. Anchored, rooted in your values, not someone else's validation. So if life puts you in a season of solitude, don't rush to escape it. Use it, because nothing builds real character like being left alone with yourself and choosing to rise. Silence is not weakness, it's preparation. It's the moment before the strike, the breath before the breakthrough, the pause where strength is not lost, it's gathered. In a world that rewards noise, silence often gets misunderstood. People think if you're not speaking, you're uncertain. If you're not posting, you're falling behind. If you're not reacting, you're losing. But silence has never been a sign of surrender. It's a sign of strategy. It's what happens when the mind is sharpening, when the soul is recharging, when the next move is being carefully chosen. Real power doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't panic. It doesn't flinch. It learns to wait. To observe, to breathe, in silence you reflect, not to escape, but to see clearly. You ask better questions. You start understanding your patterns, your triggers, your truths. You begin to see the difference between reaction and response, between noise and necessity, between urgency and importance. Silence lets you hear yourself. It helps you think deeper, and it allows you to strip away the distractions that cloud your direction. You become less impulsive, more intentional, more grounded. When you move from silence, your actions carry more weight, not because you forced them, but because you meant asterisk them. Silence teaches you discipline, the kind that doesn't come from the outside, the kind that grows from patience, focus, and deep self-respect. It helps you separate ego from purpose. It helps you choose clarity over chaos. Preparation isn't always visible, but it's always powerful. And silence is where that preparation takes place. It's where your thoughts align with your values. It's where you build the strength to stand alone if needed. Let others chase noise. Let them race to speak first to prove something. You stay still. You stay steady because the storm doesn't move the mountain. When the moment comes and the pressure rises, it won't be the loudest voice that wins, it will be the one that's ready, the one that trained in silence. So honor the quiet, not as a retreat, but as your foundation. Use it to reflect. Use it to build. Use it to prepare for a life that's not just reactive, but intentional and resilient. Use silence to build power, not avoid problems. Don't mistake quiet for running away. Don't hide in silence hoping things will disappear. Silence is not a shelter for fear. It's a workshop for strength. Too often, people run into silence because they're overwhelmed, because they don't want to face what's uncomfortable, because speaking up seems harder than staying quiet. But silence isn't meant to be a hiding place. It's meant to be a place of growth, a place where clarity forms, a place where decisions are made, not avoided. When you use silence to avoid, you delay your growth. You press pause on your progress. You sit in fear, pretending it's peace. But when you use silence to build, everything changes. You slow down not to run, but to prepare. You become quiet, not because you're scared, but because you're learning how to speak with purpose. Problems don't go away just because you stop talking about them. Pain doesn't disappear just because you avoid it. And doubt doesn't shrink just because you pretend it's not there. But in silence, you can face those things without the noise. You can look directly at your fears. You can confront the truth you've been dodging. That's where real power comes from. Not by escaping the fire, but by sitting with it long enough to understand it. Use silence to ask better questions. What am I really afraid of? What am I avoiding that I need to face? What's the next right move, even if it's hard? Silence gives you that space. It creates room for deeper answers. It clears away the emotional fog so you can see what matters. You don't need to speak just to be heard. You need to speak when your words are backed by wisdom, and that wisdom, it's born in silence, but only when you're honest inside it. Only when you use that quiet time to grow stronger, not to hide away from what's hard. Running into silence to escape might feel safe, but it keeps you small. Using silence to grow might feel uncomfortable, but it turns you into someone powerful. So choose your silence wisely. Let it be your ground, not your cover. Let it be your mirror, not your mask. Let it build something in you the noise never could. Because when the time comes to act, you'll be ready. Not because you hid from life, but because you prepared for it. Strong people are formed in quiet places, not in the spotlight, not in the noise, but in the stillness where no one is watching. Like roots growing underground, strength often begins in hidden spaces. Places where effort is unseen, but growth is constant. places where discipline is built without applause, where identity is formed without influence. You don't need an audience to become powerful. You need silence. You need time alone. You need to be away from the noise long enough to know who you really are. Because strength is not always loud. It's not always visible. It doesn't need to announce itself to exist. It's in the long nights of quiet work, the early mornings of self-reflection, the disciplined hours that no one claps for. True growth doesn't happen in front of a crowd. It happens when you're in the dark, trying, failing, adjusting, and trying again. Just like a tree doesn't start with its branches, it starts with its roots, deep in the ground, reaching downward before it ever reaches upward. You may feel hidden right now, unseen, unnoticed, but don't let that fool you. Hidden seasons are holy ground. They are the moments where strength is tested and character is carved. They are where resilience is born, where you learn to rely on inner conviction instead of outer approval. The world may not see your progress, but that doesn't mean it's not happening, and it doesn't mean it's not important, because when you grow strong in silence, no one can take that strength away. You become unshakable. Not because nothing shakes you, but because you've trained your roots to hold firm. You've learned to endure without recognition. You've learned to believe in yourself without constant validation. And one day, when the time is right, that inner strength will break through the surface. The world will finally see the power that was building all along. But by then, you won't be dependent on their applause, because your strength won't come from them. It will come from within. So if you're in a quiet place right now, a hidden place, a place where growth feels slow and invisible, remember this: that's exactly where strong people are formed. Silence sharpens focus and intention. It removes the clutter, it clears the fog, it allows you to hear what truly matters. In a world full of noise, silence is rare, and because it's rare, it's powerful. Noise distracts, silence refines. When you step away from the noise, your thoughts begin to settle. They stop racing. They stop competing for your attention, and slowly they start to align. Silence gives your mind space to breathe. It gives your heart room to speak. It allows you to notice what you've been ignoring. Without the constant buzz of opinions, without the pressure of performance, you can finally ask yourself, what do I really want? What do I truly believe? What matters right now and what doesn't? The answers don't come in chaos. They come in calm. When you're constantly surrounded by voices, it's easy to confuse their desires with your own. But in silence, your own voice gets louder. Not in volume, but in clarity. That's how focus is sharpened. Not by doing more, but by knowing what matters most. And when you know what matters, your actions become intentional. You stop reacting to everything. You stop chasing every distraction. You begin to move with precision. Silence removes the noise of urgency and replaces it with the calm of direction. It trains you to listen before you speak, to pause before you act, to choose your steps instead of stumbling forward blindly. That's not hesitation, that's mastery. The most effective people aren't the loudest. They're the ones who take time to think, to observe, to decide with purpose. Silence helps you become that kind of person. It gives you the power to respond, not react, to create, not copy. In the quiet, you realize you don't need to do everything. You just need to do the right things. At the right time, with the right intention. That level of focus doesn't come from noise. It comes from silence, so make space for it. Don't fear it. Don't fill it. Let it sharpen you. Because once your focus is clear and your intentions are true, you become unstoppable. Avoid the need for constant validation. Don't let your worth depend on who claps for you. Don't let your confidence rise and fall with someone else's opinion. Learn to trust your own voice before needing others to echo it. Because if your belief in yourself is borrowed, it will break the moment no one agrees. Validation is tempting. It feels good. It makes you feel seen, accepted, understood. But if you rely on it, it becomes a trap. You start changing who you are just to keep the applause going. You start adjusting your truth to fit someone else's approval. And the more you do that, the more distant you grow from your real self. There's nothing wrong with encouragement. There's nothing wrong with being appreciated, but it should be a bonus, not your foundation. You need to be able to stand in a quiet room with no one watching, no one praising, and still believe that what you're doing matters. That kind of belief is rare, but it's the kind that lasts. It doesn't fade when people walk away. It doesn't weaken when no one is paying attention. It takes courage to trust your own path, to say, "This is right for me," even when others don't understand. Even when they question you, even when they stay silent, your voice is your compass, but it only works if you listen to it. And if it's drowned out by the noise of constant approval, you'll forget what it even sounds like. You were not built to be measured by likes, follows, or comments. You were built to live a life of substance, and substance doesn't always get a standing ovation. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's lonely, but it's always real, so learn to validate yourself. Learn to look in the mirror and know who you are, not because someone told you, but because you've taken the time to know it deep down. Let your standards guide you, not the crowd. Let your values define your direction, not the reactions you receive. Because the moment you stop needing constant validation, you become free. Free to be consistent, free to be honest, free to grow on your own terms. And when people do recognize you, when they do cheer for you, it will feel good, but it won't be necessary. You won't need their echo, because you've already heard your own voice and you believed it was enough. Discipline is forged alone, not in front of the crowd, not under the spotlight, but in the quiet, ordinary moments that no one else sees. It's shaped in the early mornings when your alarm goes off and no one would know if you stayed in bed. It's formed in the small decisions, what you eat, what you read, what you think. When no one is holding you accountable, it's not built on motivation, it's built on consistency, and consistency is a personal promise, not a public show. The best habits are not always exciting. They're not glamorous. They don't go viral. They happen when you choose structure over chaos, focus over distraction, long-term gain over short-term comfort. And the truth is, no one claps for discipline. There's no applause when you say no to temptation. No celebration when you study instead of scroll. No cheers when you walk away from comfort to pursue growth. But those are the moments that shape you. Those are the moments that separate those who want results from those who actually earn them. Because discipline is not something you're born with. It's something you build. And like anything worth building, it takes time. It takes patience. It takes silence. When you're alone, there's no one to impress, no one to convince, only you, your choices, and the future you're creating. And that's where real power comes from, doing the right thing when no one else knows. Making progress when no one else sees. Staying the course when quitting would be easier. That's the kind of strength that can't be shaken, because it wasn't built on approval. It was built on purpose. You don't need an audience to become disciplined. You need a reason, a vision, a commitment to yourself that doesn't depend on external pressure. Anyone can look focused when others are watching, but discipline is proven when no one is. It's in the decisions you make when you're tired, when you're discouraged, when you feel like giving in. That's where the edge is found. That's where the difference is made. So honor the quiet work. Value the invisible effort. Because the strongest version of you isn't built in front of the world. It's forged in silence, one choice at a time. Speak less, act with more clarity, because words are easy. Action takes courage, and in the end, it's not what you say that defines you, it's what you do when it matters. Let your silence prepare your actions, not delay them. Silence isn't a reason to wait forever. It's a space to think deeper, to align your intentions, to sharpen your focus before you move. You don't need to talk about every plan. You don't need to explain every step. The world doesn't need a preview of your every move. It needs to feel the impact of your quiet preparation. Real power doesn't advertise, it builds, it acts, it delivers. When you speak too soon, you risk wasting energy on appearances. You might feel productive talking about goals, but clarity doesn't come from endless discussion. It comes from action guided by purpose. Use silence to build understanding, to eliminate noise, to listen to yourself, and to what reality is showing you. The louder you are, the less you hear. But in silence, you begin to notice the things that matter. The distractions fall away, the pressure fades, and what remains is truth. When you act from that space, your steps are cleaner, more precise, more intentional. You don't need to explain your growth. You just need to live it. Let people feel the difference in how you show up, not in what you promise, but in what you consistently deliver. The world is full of noise promises with no follow-through, talk without substance, plans with no execution. Don't add to it, be different, be clear, be effective, say less, but mean every word you speak, move less, but make every move count. Let your silence give you the space to act with clarity, but don't confuse silence with hesitation. Don't use it as a hiding place. Use it as a launch pad, because action rooted in silence is stronger. It's cleaner. It's more aligned with who you really are. You don't have to announce your path. You just have to walk it. You don't have to respond to every doubt. You just have to rise above it. And when the time comes to speak, let your results do the talking. Let your life be your answer. Let your consistency speak volumes. Because in the end, clarity wins, and clarity doesn't come from noise. It comes from silence turned into action. Don't mistake isolation for weakness. Time alone is often where the greatest transformations occur. When the world gets quiet, something powerful begins to happen. You stop performing, you stop pretending, and you start facing what's real. Isolation isn't the absence of strength. It's the space where strength is built. It's the space where you no longer rely on the energy of others and start learning how to generate your own. Most people fear being alone because they associate it with emptiness. But the truth is, isolation is not empty. It's full of opportunity to reflect, to reset, to rebuild. The noise of the world can cover your weaknesses, but solitude reveals them. And when you see them clearly, you can finally begin the work of changing them. It's in isolation that you become aware of the stories you've been telling yourself, the excuses you've been making, the patterns you've been repeating. You start to realize what's been holding you back, not the people, not the problems, but your own limits, your own fears. And once you see it, you can shift it. Transformation doesn't require a crowd. It doesn't need to be broadcasted or celebrated. It needs focus. It needs silence. It needs time with yourself. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet grew in the quiet. They sharpened their minds in long seasons of solitude. They healed in silence. They developed their discipline far away from validation. Isolation doesn't mean you failed. It means life has pulled you aside for a reason. To train you, to test you, to prepare you, and what you build in that space no one can take from you. Because when you grow in isolation, you're not growing to impress, you're growing to become. You start to think differently. You start to move with clarity. You stop wasting energy on the opinions of others, and start investing in your own growth. And when the time comes to re-enter the noise, you'll be changed. Not just better, stronger. Calmer, clearer, so if you find yourself alone, don't run from it. Sit with it, learn from it, use it, because time alone isn't punishment, it's preparation. And what feels like isolation today might be the very thing that creates the next version of you, the one you've been trying to become all along. Command from silence, don't retreat into it. Silence is not a place to hide. It's a place to prepare. When you step into solitude, you step away from distractions. You step away from the noise of opinions, judgments, and expectations. You step into a space where your mind can clear and your spirit can focus. But silence is not an end, it's a beginning. It's the quiet before the storm of your greatest action. Too many people retreat into silence out of fear. They withdraw, hoping the world will pass them by. They hide in solitude, avoiding confrontation, avoiding growth. But that's not what silence is for. Silence is for gathering strength, for building wisdom, for crafting the kind of power that doesn't shout, it commands. When you command from silence, your presence is undeniable. It's not loud or aggressive. It's calm, confident, and unwavering. This kind of command comes from knowing yourself deeply, from understanding your purpose clearly, from trusting your inner voice over the chatter around you. When you return from solitude, return stronger, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Let the quiet have healed you. Let the stillness have sharpened your focus. Return wiser, with lessons learned from introspection, with clarity that only time alone can provide, with a vision refined by reflection, and return ready, ready to face challenges head on, ready to take action that matters, ready to lead your life with intention. Silence doesn't weaken you. It prepares you to be unstoppable. So don't use solitude as an escape. Use it as a forge, where your character is tempered, where your spirit is strengthened. When the time comes to speak, your words will carry weight. When the time comes to act, your actions will have purpose. Others may not understand the quiet time you took. They may question why you withdrew. But you will know the power you built in that silence. You will move forward with the quiet confidence of someone who has been tested and emerge stronger. Remember, silence is not a retreat, it's a strategy. A preparation, a source of unstoppable strength. Command from that space. Let your silence speak louder than words ever could. And when you step back into the world, step with the power of someone who is truly prepared, strong, wise, and ready. And so, as you embrace silence, remember it is your ally, not your enemy. Let it be the place where you build, where you grow, and where you prepare to rise. When you emerge from solitude, do so with strength in your heart, clarity in your mind, and purpose in your every step. Because the world doesn't need more noise, it needs your quiet command, your steadfast presence, your undeniable power. Step forward, not to escape, but to lead.